right, welcome back to Mrs. Zell's SOL review. Today we're going to be continuing 8.15, which deals with multi-step equations with one or more variables. We're also going to be solving two-step linear inequations and identifying properties. Let's continue with number 5. What is the solution to this inequality? You're going to solve the inequalities just like you would solve a regular equation. So the goal is to get the variable on one side. So what you're going to do here is you want to get rid of the 4, so subtract the 4 on both sides. The 4's cancel out, you bring down a 0.8x. And when you subtract that, you should get a negative 2.4. So you have a negative 2.4 is greater than or equal to a 0.8x. Now you want to get the x by itself. So now I'm going to divide both sides by a 0.8. And notice that this is a negative 2.4. So that means my answer is going to be negative. All right. So what you're going to do when you divide that, you're going to get a negative 3, which is greater than or equal to x. Now, in this case, you don't have to flip it around because they give you that answer right here. So you wouldn't flip it around in this case. However, if you were going to graph it, make sure that you flip the inequality around before you graph it. Number 6, solve this inequality. So for this one here, I want to subtract 5 from both sides. And when I do that, the 5's cancel out. You get a negative 3 is less than x over 4. X over 4, think of that as a division problem. So the opposite is to multiply by the reciprocal, which is 4 over 1, or just 4. So you'll multiply by 4 on both sides. That cancels out the 4. And you end up with negative 12, which is less than x. Now, if I was going to solve it, I would definitely turn it around and write x is then greater than a negative 12. So depending on whether or not they ask you to grade it. Number 7, identify each equation that illustrates the commutative property of multiplication. Well, this one is addition, so it can't be that one. This looks like the distributive property, correct? Let's see. This one looks like the associative property. That looks like it's correct. And this is not correct because it is addition. Number 8. Which property justifies this step? What do you notice about this one? The groups change. So it's associative property of addition. Definitely can't be multiplication here. It's not B, and it's definitely not D. All right, next one, number 9. The first 6 steps used to solve an equation are shown. Between which 2 steps does the 0 property of multiplication justify the work? It should be between 5 and 6. Number 10, Eric solved the equation x minus 3 equals 10 as shown. What property justifies Eric's work from step 2 to step 3? Well, what's the difference here? Looks like this right here. So a negative 3 plus a 3 is the inverse property. Remember, inverse, the opposite? Number 11, which is one value of the set of x that makes the following true? Now, I think there was a mistake on this one because you have 2, -21. So I'm just going to make letter A positive 21. So when you do that, what they mean, this is a kind of a tricky question. So you have to be real careful because here is the key word. And this is very confusing to some students. It said that makes the following true. So that means you have to plug in a number to make it true. So what I would do first is solve it. And when you solve, you're going to add 18 to both sides. So now you have a -4x on this side. The 18s cancel out. You're left with 12 on the left side. So 12 is greater than a -4x. If you remember your rules about inequalities and dividing by a negative, you're dividing by a -4. So what does that mean? You're going to flip. So this equals a -3. I'm going to flip it. This cancels out and you get x. Now the question says, which is one value of the set of x that makes the following true? So what that means is I'm going to turn it around so that I can make sense of it. So that makes sense to me when I put the variable on the left-hand side. Now, substitute a number for x that makes the statement true. So if you plug in a -21, is -21 greater than -3? No, a -10 is not bigger, a -5 is not bigger. That's why I changed it from a -21 to a positive. If I change that to 21, 21 is greater than a -3, and that makes it true. So that's what they're asking. So you would plug in a number, and they will ask you at least one question like this. Which of the following will make the statement true? So be really careful with those types of questions. All right, tune back with us tomorrow on the next SOL review.